Hi everyone. Sorry this message did not get out yesterday. I had a little trouble on Sunday and Monday getting back from computers and writing. Okay, so this week a lot of the tips are you'll need to read them, but I'm still walking through and sharing a few things. So in terms of the design and development strategy, I'm specifically focusing on student support. Again, this is one of the key elements of the Quality Matters rubric. Explicitly asks that online designers, course designers, share student support materials with students. And in all the reviews I've done, and as a reviewer or a lead reviewer, most cases people just smack a list somewhere either on the syllabus or in the course saying, look, here are all the student support services students have access to. And students generally have the ability to easily ignore those lists. So at minimum, don't forget you need to have that list. However, what I want to suggest is that you might have those lists and actually prompt students to do something with the list, and or prompt and remind students that certain supports exist at key points in the semester when they might be useful. So, for example, in terms of tech support, one thing I can't stress enough is scaffold the learning of the technologies. So in the first 2 weeks of class, have low stakes, learn the technology assignments. So students are playing with them, getting them downloaded, finding where they are, getting accounts, etc., before they have work that actually, is more significant and or counts towards more points. Um, uh, so for example, in Google Drive, the first week I might have them make folders and start a doc that has their course goals. The following week I might have them share docs, make links. Another week incorporate images, etc. So each week I add something on that gets them using the technology in a more complicated manner. Um, I highly I highly suggest that you share that you have a course area that allows students to discuss where they're struggling in the course, so tech support and course help. For two reasons. One, students might be able to respond to it faster than you do. So if a student emails you with a "I'm stuck on," and whether it's a technology or course thing, they're stuck waiting for you to get back to that email. But if you do this discussion board area, then one, students might be able to help one another more quickly, and two, the results are there for everyone to see. So the interesting thing is if you do this, you'll probably still at first have students asking questions via email, and what I suggest you do is you copy paste the question from the email, drop it in the discussion board, or if it's a blog or whatever area that's this shared tech support, could be a Google Doc, and answer it there, and then tell the student in the email, hey, it was a good question, and I just wanted you to know I answered it over here, so everyone would benefit from the question and the answer. And then hopefully what that'll do is they'll get everyone putting all those types of questions in that area. I cannot stress this enough. I did all caps and bold to emphasize it. Do not waste time making your own tech support materials. The technologies change too fast. There's usually official help documents, and then YouTube and Google are your friend and the student's friends. So one, make sure you kind of prompt that. If a student asks you for a question, it's like, well, did you check the help documents and Google that? Two, though, I consider having at minimum a getting started video at the beginning of the entire course. That also is another suggestion from Quality Matters. But you might even do a weekly intro video, kind of like I'm doing with these newsletters. And in those, you can, again, show students quickly, here's the technology we'll be using this week, and it's in the context of the course. Finally, you might want to consider having students explore and make support documentation for technologies as a course assignment, as course content, especially you tech and professional writing classes. Things like how-to screencasts are now a legit genre that we might want to be teaching our students, or we should be teaching our students. Academic and other student services support. Again, that shared discussion board area. I highly suggest you remind certain services exist in the schedule when they're needed. Usually for our classes, more often than not, that's the librarians and the Writing Center. Now, please do not require that students meet with librarians or the Writing Center, because usually those resources are not funded well enough to support all classes requiring all students to use them. Instead, consider reminding students they're there and having an activity that prompts students to prepare for attending those services, so they know they should be going to these resources prepared. I also suggest, though, that like during midterms, you might want to point at other student services that exist and be like, hey folks, did you know we had counseling? Because sometimes students do not know that, and at the middle of the semester they might need that. And then I've linked to student support service activities, academic and other service activities that you might have students do at the beginning and or mid or end of the semester, that just kind of reminds students that these activities or these services exist, and that they might want to use them. Okay, so for example, this is going to click on audio, which you probably won't hear. There we go. For example, these activities generally ask students to look at the services that exist with links to them and think about what would be useful for their course, what would be useful for their assignments, what might be useful for their major project. I do confess that this list is currently ODU, where I'm at, and I would love help making an equivalent of UofA. And the one thing that we'll definitely want to pay attention to, so this is something I'll be doing in the next couple weeks, is I know that there's some services that UofA has developed that are specific for the online students, and we'll want to make sure students know those. But then in theory, they have right and access to all the student services, and if they need something, they should be able to at least call someone and hopefully get some help. So that's kind of the content thing to get you all thinking about. This week's application, I am a huge cluster or mind map fan, whatever you want to use it. My two favorite applications right now are Poplet and CMap and CMap Cloud. So both of them are free. CMap is an application you actually have to download to your computer, and CMap Cloud is the cloud version of it. I will say the main reason I like these two is that they do not force hierarchy. Other ones, I do like the functionality of MindDomo and MindMeister, but they force that you start with a circle in the center and then spider web out, whereas Poplet and CMap allow you to drop nodes anywhere, make connections where you want them, etc. So yes, go play with those. They're fun. Besides having students visualize their thinking about what they've read or what they plan to write, consider having students continuously build a weekly learning reflections map, and I've left you an assignment prompt here, or a version of it that I've done in other classes, and kind of the idea that they start with the course learning outcomes and start connecting what they've learned. This type of activity is a really good low stakes scaffolding activity towards an end of term portfolio, because if they do this each week, then at the end of the semester when they're putting their portfolio together, you can prompt them, go look at your mind map, see what's there, blah blah blah. Online teaching and learning tip, weigh your homework and low stakes learning activities in the grade distribution. So instead of mapping out and accounting for every single homework assignment that you'll be giving, and especially if it's your first time teaching the class, chances are you won't even build it all in advance. Try, but I'm realistic. But the reason I'm saying that, so I'm going to connect to this. So this is a grade sheet that I currently do for a class. And notice this green area here, it's homework and participation. And I have a points possible up here on top, and then I have points earned. And then if we look at down here in the green, what we see is a calculated grade. So up here in the left-hand corner is the calculation of the grade for participation. And it's saying, you know, take the points earned, divide it by the points possible, and then times 0.45%. And so I'm saying that for me, participation is 45% of the course. And the reason I do it this way is so that if an assignment is not working well, or if I need to add something based on something that's going on, it just messes with the points possible and the points earned, but it's still worth 45% of the course. All grade books usually allow for weighting in some way, shape, or form. I haven't played with Desire to Learn yet. I'm hoping this week I should get access to it, and I'll try to fiddle with that. But then you're also seeing why I like to do my grade sheets in Google Docs. Finally, I realized that I'm adding one more area to our weekly. My weekly notes is using open content. I know that we're using a textbook; it's PalmQuest's book. However, you might want to be using other stuff on the web, and so I'm going to try to help with that. First and foremost, people try to incorporate images to help spice up the online course. This link takes you to resources about images. So some things to consider with images, tons upon tons of image repositories, including things like icon repositories, image editing and remixing. Some tips down here specifically on editing and advanced editing. I just want to say this particular website we're looking at right now is something I've built for a workshop, and it's a little old, and so each week before I do this, I'm updating the thing. So feel free to look at everything on the left, but I'll be updating it as I work on these work on this stuff with you all. So keep coming back to it, or especially at each week when I said, here's new open content. So I hope this gives you lots of things to consider, lots of things to play with. Before I forget, please make sure you take this survey, because I need to know who will be there for training 2 weeks from now. Thank you for your time and energy, and I look forward to continuing to work with you all.